Jinwoo's hand slammed against the steering wheel. 40 minutes stuck in traffic, and he'd moved maybe 200 meters. His Bluetooth earpiece buzzed with his lawyer's voice going on and on about permits and contracts. But honestly, Jinwoo had stopped listening 10 minutes ago. "Mr. Park, are you still there?" Yeah, I'm here. Just send the documents to my office." His phone lit up on the dashboard. Unknown number. He frowned and declined the call. Probably some telemarketer. His phone rang again immediately. Same number. "Who is this?" Jinwoo muttered, declining it again. It rang a third time. Annoyed now, he grabbed the phone and answered in Korean. "Who is this? Mr. Park? Mr. Jinwoo Park?" A woman's voice speaking English with a Filipino accent sounded breathless and urgent. "Yes, who's calling?" "This is Nurse Garcia from Mercy Hospital in Itaewon. Sir, your wife Ifeoma Okafor Park just collapsed in our emergency room. She's in labor, but there are complications. You need to come right now." The world stopped. Jinwoo's brain stuttered. "I'm sorry, what? There must be some mistake. We're divorced. We've been divorced for 9 months. Sir, I'm looking at her emergency contact information right now. You're listed as her husband, and we are not married anymore," Jinwoo said. But even as the words left his mouth, something cold slid down his spine. 9 months. Wait, did you say she's in labor? She's been asking for you repeatedly before the pain got too severe. Sir, the baby is showing signs of distress, and we really need a family member here immediately. Please, can you? The line went dead. Hello, friends. Welcome back. Before we dive into today's story, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us create more powerful stories every week. And let me know in the comments, where are you watching from? Drop your country flag. Now, let's get into the story. Jinwoo stared at his phone, his heart hammering against his ribs. Ifeoma was pregnant? Had been pregnant this whole time? His hand shook as he tried to process this. 9 months since the divorce, which meant, "Oh my God," he whispered. His lawyer's voice crackled in his ear. "Mr. Park? Did you hear what I said about the investor meeting?" Jinwoo ripped the earpiece out and looked at the traffic ahead. Solid red brake lights as far as he could see. The hospital was maybe 4 kilometers away. In this nightmare traffic, it would take at least 45 minutes. He didn't hesitate. Jinwoo threw his door open, left his Mercedes running right there in the middle of Gangnam's busiest street, and started running. "Hey, you can't just leave your car there," someone yelled behind him. Jinwoo didn't care. His expensive Italian shoes slapped against the pavement as he sprinted down the sidewalk, weaving between pedestrians who stared at this crazy man in a designer suit running like the world was ending. Because maybe it was. Maybe his world was ending right now in a hospital 4 kilometers away, and he had missed it all. Sweat poured down his face. His lungs burned. When was the last time he'd actually run anywhere? 2 years? 3. His wealth had made him soft, comfortable. But right now, none of that mattered. All he could think about was Ifeoma. Beautiful, strong Ifeoma with her infectious laugh and the way she used to challenge him on everything. Ifeoma, who he'd thrown away because he was too proud and too stupid to listen. Ifeoma, who had apparently been pregnant with his child this entire time. Why didn't she tell me? The thought hammered through his mind with each footfall. Then another thought, darker and more painful. What if she tried? Jinwoo pushed harder, his dress shirt now completely soaked through. People jumped out of his way. Someone cursed at him. He didn't stop. Finally, the hospital came into view. Mercy Hospital's blue sign felt like a beacon. Jinwoo burst through the automatic doors so fast they barely had time to open, nearly colliding with an elderly woman in a wheelchair. Sorry, he gasped, stumbling toward the reception desk. The woman behind the desk looked up, startled by this sweating, panting man in an expensive suit who looked like he'd just run a marathon. "Ifeoma Okafor," Jinwoo managed to say between breaths. "She just came in. Labor. Where is she?" The receptionist's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Are you family?" "I'm her." Jinwoo stopped. What was he? "I'm the father of the baby. Just tell me where she is." The receptionist's eyes widened slightly at his tone, but she picked up her phone. "3rd floor, maternity ward. But sir, there's a situation." Jinwoo was already running toward the elevators. He jabbed the button repeatedly, but the display showed the elevator was on the 7th floor and descending slowly. Too slow. He spotted the stairwell and went for it instead, taking the stairs 2 and 3 at a time. His legs screamed in protest. His lungs felt like they were on fire. But he kept climbing. third floor. He crashed through the stairwell door into a corridor that smelled like antiseptic and something else, something metallic that made his stomach clench. Blood. The maternity ward was controlled chaos. Nurses moved quickly but calmly between rooms. A woman's scream of pain came from somewhere down the hall, but Jinwoo couldn't tell which room. His eyes scanned desperately for someone, anyone who could tell him where Ifeoma was. Then he saw her. Adana, Ifeoma's best friend from Nigeria. She was standing near the nurse's station, her arms crossed, her face tight with worry. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. When she turned and saw Jinwoo, her expression transformed into something he'd never seen before. Pure rage. She stormed toward him, her voice low and deadly. "You, have some nerve." "Adana, please, where is she? Is she okay? The baby. Now you ask about the baby?" Adana's voice rose sharply, causing several nurses to look over. She didn't care. "Now? Where the hell have you been for the last 9 months, Jinwoo?" "I didn't know. I swear, I had no idea she was pregnant." "She called you." Adana jabbed her finger into his chest. Hard. "She called you 17 times in 3 days. 17 times, Jinwoo. She sent you emails. She tried everything." Jinwoo felt like he'd been punched. I blocked her number. After the divorce, I thought she betrayed me. I couldn't hear her voice." "Oh, you couldn't hear her voice?" Adana's laugh was harsh and broken. "Well, I heard it. Every single night for 9 months. I heard her crying herself to sleep. I heard her throwing up every morning and still dragging herself to work because your family made sure she didn't get a single one from the divorce settlement." "What?" Jinwoo's voice came out as a whisper. "No, I arranged for payments. My lawyers. Your mother blocked them." Adana's eyes were wet now, angry tears spilling over. "Your mother's lawyers claimed Ifeoma signed away all financial rights, which was a lie, but Ifeoma didn't have the money to fight it. So you know what she did? She worked. 2 jobs, while pregnant. I watched her come home at midnight, feet swollen, barely able to stand, and then get up at 5 in the morning to do it all again. Each word was a knife. Jinwoo could barely breathe. "Adana, I swear I didn't know any of this. My mother, she told me everything was handled, that Ifeoma was taken care of." "Taken care of?" Adana's voice cracked. "She worked at a construction site, Jinwoo. Your wife, sorry, your ex-wife, the woman who helped design half of Gangnam's skyline, was hauling materials at construction sites because it was the only place that would hire her without proper documentation. And you know what the foreman said when she passed out today? He said, 'I knew we shouldn't have hired a foreigner.'" Jinwoo felt sick, actually physically sick. His vision blurred at the edges, and he had to put his hand against the wall to steady himself. "I didn't know," he whispered again. "Adana, please. I need to see her. I need to." The delivery room doors burst open. A doctor emerged, pulling off bloody gloves, his face grim. He looked around the corridor, and his eyes landed on Jinwoo and Adana. "Family of Ifeoma Okafor?" They both stepped forward at the same time. The doctor looked between them, then seemed to make a decision. "The baby is out. It's a boy, but he's very weak, and we've had to put him in the NICU immediately." "And Ifeoma?" Adana's voice shook. The doctor's pause was too long. That terrible pause that doctors give when the news is bad. "She's lost a significant amount of blood. We're doing everything we can, but the next few hours are going to be critical." She kept saying a name before we had to sedate her. "Jinwoo." She said it over and over. Jinwoo's knees almost gave out. "Can I see her? Please, I need to." "Not yet. She's not stable enough for visitors." "But," the doctor gestured down the hall, "your son is in the NICU. You can see him through the window if you'd like." Son. The word hit Jinwoo like a freight train. He had a son. His feet moved automatically, carrying him down the corridor. Adana followed, her anger seeming to drain away, replaced by exhaustion. They stopped at a large window that looked into a room full of tiny incubators and machines and more wires than Jinwoo could count. A nurse on the other side pointed to one particular incubator. Jinwoo pressed his hand against the glass. The baby was so small, impossibly small, covered in wires and tubes, a tiny oxygen mask over his face. But Jinwoo could see it. He had Jinwoo's nose, his eyebrows, and he had Ifeoma's beautiful dark skin, her perfect lips. Above the incubator, a small card read, "Baby Boy Okafor." Not Park. Okafor, Ifeoma's family name. She hadn't even given the baby his name. "She tried so hard," Adana said quietly beside him. Her anger had burned out, leaving only sadness. She wanted to tell you so badly. That first week after she found out, she was so happy. She kept saying Jin was going to be such a good father. She believed in you, even after everything. What happened? Jinwoo's voice was hoarse. Why did she stop trying? Adana was quiet for a moment, watching the baby through the glass. Your mother came to see her, about 2 weeks after the divorce was final. Ifeoma hadn't told her yet about the pregnancy. She wanted to tell you first. Your mother made it very clear that Ifeoma was no longer part of the Park family, that any attempts to contact you would be considered harassment. She had lawyers with her, Jinwoo. Actual lawyers with papers. No. Jinwoo shook his head. My mother wouldn't. Your mother did. Adana turned to look at him, and the pity in her eyes was somehow worse than the anger had been. Ifeoma was terrified. She thought if your family found out about the baby, they might try to take him from her. So she stopped calling, stopped emailing, she just disappeared. Jinwoo couldn't speak, couldn't think. He just stared at his son, his tiny, fighting son, and felt his entire world crumbling. A nurse approached them, her expression sympathetic. Mr. Park, I need to tell you something about the baby. Jinwoo turned to her, and he could see in her eyes that whatever she was about to say was going to make everything worse. Your son has a congenital heart condition. He's going to need surgery within the next 48 hours. The floor tilted. Surgery? But he's so small. How can he? It's risky, but without it, he won't survive the week. The problem is, the nurse hesitated. The problem is the surgery is extremely expensive, and Miss Okafor's insurance won't cover it. She's on a work visa, not permanent residency, so she doesn't qualify for the National Health Program. I'll pay for it. Jinwoo didn't hesitate. Whatever it costs, the best surgeons, the best equipment, whatever he needs. It's not just about the money, Mr. Park. The nurse looked uncomfortable. We need parental consent for the surgery. Miss Okafor is currently unconscious, and we don't know when she'll wake up. And you. She trailed off. And I what? You're not listed as the father on any documents. Legally, you have no rights to make medical decisions for this baby. Jinwoo felt like he'd been hit by a truck. But he's my son. We believe you, Mr. Park. But legally, right now, the only person who can consent to this surgery is Miss Okafor. If she doesn't wake up in time... The nurse didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. What about her family? Adana asked. Her parents in Nigeria? We'd need to contact them, get them to Korea, and have them establish legal guardianship. That process could take weeks. Your son doesn't have weeks. Jinwoo's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out with shaking hands. A text from his mother. I heard you're at the hospital. Don't do anything foolish. That woman and her child are not your responsibility anymore. He stared at the message, then at his son fighting for life behind the glass, then back at the message. His mother had done this. His family had done this. They had destroyed Ifeoma, abandoned his son, and now they thought they could just tell him to walk away? Jinwoo made a decision. He looked at Adana. I need your help. I need to make this right. How? Jinwoo, even if you wanted to help, you have no legal standing. Then I'll get legal standing. Jinwoo pulled up his contacts, scrolling through until he found his lawyer's number. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll fight my entire family if I have to, but I am not losing my son. Adana studied his face for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Okay, but if you hurt her again, Jinwoo, if you break her heart one more time, I will personally make sure you regret it for the rest of your life. I already regret it, Jinwoo said quietly. I'm going to spend the rest of my life regretting it. Behind them, an alarm started blaring from Ifeoma's room. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying this story so far, like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and comment your country below. Let's continue. Doctors and nurses sprinted toward Ifeoma's room. Jinwoo tried to follow, but Adana grabbed his arm, pulling him back as medical staff flooded through the doorway. You can't go in there, she said firmly. You'll just be in the way. But Jinwoo's voice broke. Through the open door, he could see Ifeoma's body on the bed, surrounded by machines and people in scrubs moving with urgent precision. Someone shouted numbers he didn't understand. Another person called for more blood. She's bleeding internally, a nurse rushing past them said to another. We need to get her to surgery now. Jinwoo watched helplessly as they wheeled Ifeoma's bed out of the room, IV bags swinging, monitors beeping frantically. He caught a glimpse of her face, so pale, so still, and then she was gone, disappearing through double doors marked Operating Theater, Authorized Personnel Only. The corridor suddenly felt too quiet, too empty. Jinwoo slumped against the wall, sliding down until he was sitting on the cold hospital floor. His expensive suit was wrinkled and sweat-stained. His hands were shaking. "This is my fault," he whispered. "All of this." Adana stood over him, arms crossed. For a moment, she looked like she might kick him. Then her shoulders sagged and she sat down beside him on the floor. "Yeah," she said bluntly. "A lot of it is." They sat in silence. Down the hall, a baby cried. Jinwoo's phone buzzed repeatedly in his pocket, but he ignored it. "Tell me about the pregnancy," he said finally. "Please, I need to know what she went through." Adana was quiet for so long that Jinwoo thought she wouldn't answer. Then she started talking, her voice flat and tired. She found out 3 days after the divorce was finalized. She was so scared, Jinwoo. She came to my apartment at like 2 in the morning, crying so hard she could barely breathe. She kept saying, "I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do." I held her all night while she cried. Jinwoo closed his eyes, the image too painful to bear. "The next morning she tried to call you. I was there. I watched her dial your number over and over, and every time it went straight to voicemail. After the 17th try, she just broke down again. She said, 'He hates me so much he won't even let me speak.'" "I didn't hate her," Jinwoo said, his voice cracking. "I thought she betrayed me. That dinner with Director Choi was a setup." Adana turned to look at him. "Did you even give her a chance to explain? Did you listen to anything she said during the divorce?" Jinwoo shook his head, ashamed. "My family kept showing me the photos, Ifeoma and Director Choi laughing together at that restaurant. They said she was selling company secrets. My mother had a whole file of evidence. Evidence your mother probably created." Adana's voice was sharp. "Ifeoma met Director Choi because he contacted her about a consulting opportunity. She told you about it, remember? She asked if you thought it was appropriate." Jinwoo's stomach dropped. He did remember, vaguely. Ifeoma mentioning something about a dinner meeting, asking his opinion. But he'd been distracted, stressed about a project deadline. He'd said something like, "Do what you think is best," without really listening. "She recorded the whole dinner on her phone," Adana continued. "Director Choi spent 2 hours trying to bribe her to leak your company's development plans. She refused every single offer. She was planning to tell you everything the next day, but then those photos showed up and you just decided she was guilty. You didn't even ask for her side." Jinwoo pressed his palms against his eyes. "Oh God. She tried to show you the recording during the divorce proceedings. Your lawyers wouldn't let her speak, said it was irrelevant to the dissolution of marriage. She was begging, Jinwoo, actually begging to just play you a 5-minute recording, and you sat there, stone-faced, and let them shut her down." Every word was a knife twisting deeper. Jinwoo had thought he was protecting himself, protecting his family's business. Instead, he'd destroyed the only person who had actually been protecting him. "The pregnancy got harder around month 4, Adana went on. She started showing, which made it harder to find work. Korean companies didn't want to hire a pregnant foreign woman, so she took whatever she could get. Night shifts at a convenience store, weekend cleaning jobs. Eventually, a construction site hired her because they needed someone who spoke English to coordinate with foreign contractors. She was an architect, Jinwoo said, his voice hollow. She designed buildings. She won awards. Yeah, well, none of that mattered anymore. Not without your family's name backing her. The construction work was brutal. Heavy lifting, long hours in the heat. I begged her to stop, to let me support her, but she was too proud. She kept saying, "I need to provide for my baby." Jinwoo's phone buzzed again. He finally pulled it out. 7 missed calls from his mother, 3 from his brother, a text from his father. "Come to the house immediately. We need to discuss this situation." He turned the phone off completely. "She collapsed twice before today," Adana said quietly. "Once at the convenience store, once at home. Both times she refused to go to the hospital because she couldn't afford it. She was saving every single one for the baby. She bought medical textbooks, studied pregnancy and childbirth on her own, joined online forums for advice. She was terrified something would go wrong and she wouldn't know what to do." "Why didn't she go back to Nigeria?" Jinwoo asked. "Her family, they would have helped her. And admit that her marriage failed, that the man she loved threw her away? You don't understand Nigerian families, Jinwoo. Her parents were already against the marriage. They warned her that Korean men from wealthy families don't respect black women, that she'd be a trophy at best and a mistress at worst. She spent 2 years proving them wrong, showing them how much you loved her. Going home pregnant and divorced would have killed her. Jinwoo thought about his own family, his mother's constant criticism of Ifeoma, his father's barely concealed disappointment that Jinwoo hadn't married a suitable Korean girl, his brother's jokes about his exotic wife. He tolerated it, told himself it would get better with time, that they'd come to love Ifeoma like he did. He'd been such a fool. The baby became everything to her, Adana said. She'd talk to him every night, tell him stories about Korea and Nigeria, about how he was going to be strong and brave and loved. She picked out a name. Did you know that? Chukwuemeka. It means God has done great things in Igbo. She said it was a name of hope. Jinwoo looked down the hall toward the NICU window. His son, Chukwuemeka, fighting for his life while Jinwoo had been sitting in traffic, discussing property acquisitions. A doctor emerged from the operating theater, pulling off his surgical cap. Jinwoo and Adana scrambled to their feet. Miss Okafor is stable, the doctor said, and Jinwoo nearly collapsed with relief. We've stopped the bleeding and given her 2 units of blood, but she's very weak. She'll need to stay unconscious for at least the next 12 hours while her body recovers. But she'll be okay? Adana asked. The doctor hesitated. If there are no complications, yes, but she's been through significant trauma. Her body is exhausted. It looks like she's been severely malnourished for months, combined with the stress of labor and the blood loss. He shook his head. I'm honestly surprised she made it this far. Can we see her? Jinwoo's voice was barely a whisper. Not yet. We're moving her to intensive care. Maybe in a few hours. The doctor looked at Jinwoo, his expression hardening slightly. I have to ask, Mr. Park, are you the father of Ms. Okafor's child? Yes. Then you should know that your son's condition is more serious than we initially thought. The heart defect is complex. We're going to need to do the surgery within 24 hours, not 48. Every hour we wait increases the risk. Jinwoo's heart hammered. Then do it now. I told you, money is not an issue. It's not about money, the doctor said impatiently. It's about consent. We cannot perform surgery on a minor without parental consent. Miss Okafor is unconscious and will be for at least 12 hours. That leaves you, but you're not listed on any legal documents as the father. Then I'll sign whatever you need. Documents, affidavits, anything. The doctor exchanged glances with a nurse. It's not that simple. We'd need to establish paternity legally. Blood tests, documentation, possibly a court order. That takes time. We don't have time. Jinwoo's voice rose. You just said my son needs surgery in 24 hours. I know, Mr. Park. I'm trying to find a solution. But Korean medical law is very strict about this. If we operate without proper consent and something goes wrong, the hospital could be held liable. I could lose my license. Jinwoo wanted to scream, to punch something. His son was dying and he was being stopped by paperwork? What if he gets consent from both parents? Adana said suddenly. If Aoma wakes up and gives consent and Jinwoo confirms as the father? That would work, the doctor admitted. But Miss Okafor won't be conscious for. What if we make her conscious? Jinwoo interrupted. Just for a few minutes. Just long enough to sign. The doctor looked horrified. Absolutely not. That could kill her. Her body needs rest. If we wake her prematurely and she goes into shock, then what do we do? Jinwoo's voice broke. Just let my son die because of bureaucracy? The doctor's expression softened. There is one other option. If you and Miss Okafor were still legally married, you would have automatic parental rights. Even without your name on the birth certificate, as her husband, you could consent to the surgery. Jinwoo stared at him. But we're divorced. Yes, I'm aware. I'm just telling you what the law states. The doctor started to turn away, then paused. Although, technically, if you were to remarry before the surgery, that would give you the legal standing you need. Remarry? Adana said. Are you serious? She's unconscious. I know it sounds crazy, the doctor said, but I've seen it happen before. Emergency marriages for medical consent. It would have to be done properly. Official documentation, witnesses, everything legal. But theoretically, if Ms. Okafor were awake and willing, and if you could find someone to perform the ceremony on such short notice, he shrugged. It's an option. He walked away, leaving Jinwoo and Adana standing in stunned silence. That's insane, Adana said finally. Even if Ifeoma woke up, even if she agreed, which is a huge if, Where are you going to find someone to marry you at a hospital in the middle of the night? And Ifeoma can barely breathe on her own right now. She can't get married. Jinwoo pulled out his phone, turning it back on. It immediately lit up with notifications, but he ignored them all and started scrolling through contacts. Jinwoo, what are you doing? Finding a solution. He pressed call on a number and lifted the phone to his ear. Yes, this is Jinwoo Park. I need to speak to Attorney Yoon immediately. I don't care if he's with a client. Get him on the phone now. Adana watched him with a mixture of disbelief and something that might have been hope. Attorney Yoon? Yes, I need your help. I need to know the fastest way to get legally married in Korea. No, I'm not joking. I need to be married within the next 24 hours. I don't care if it's unconventional. I don't care if it's difficult. I need a way. Find one. He hung up and immediately called another number. Dr. Kim, it's Jinwoo Park. Yes, I'm fine. Listen, I need a favor, a big one. I need you to call Mercy Hospital in Itaewon and consult on a pediatric heart surgery case. My son. Yes, I have a son. It's complicated. Can you do it? Thank you. I owe you. Adana grabbed his arm. Jinwoo, stop. You're not thinking clearly. Even if you could arrange all this, Ifeoma would have to agree. And she's unconscious. You heard the doctor. Waking her up could kill her. Then I'll wait until she wakes up naturally. Jinwoo met her eyes. And I'll pray that happens before it's too late for our son. His phone rang. Attorney Yoon. Jinwoo answered immediately. Mr. Park, I've looked into it. The fastest legal marriage in Korea requires a 3-day waiting period after submitting documents. However, there is one exception. If you marry at a foreign embassy, specifically the embassy of one of the parties involved, you can bypass Korean waiting periods. The marriage would still be legally recognized here, but it follows the embassy's country laws. The Nigerian embassy, Jinwoo said. Would that work? In theory, yes. If Miss Okafor is a Nigerian citizen, you could marry there. But you'd need her present, conscious, and willing. And you'd need to contact them to see if they'd even agree to perform an emergency marriage ceremony. Get me the contact information, all of it, and draft whatever documents we might need. Mr. Park, are you sure about this? Your family. My family doesn't get a vote. Jinwoo's voice was steel. Not anymore. He ended the call and looked at Adana. I know this sounds crazy. I know Ifeoma has every right to never want to see me again, but if there's even a chance this could save our son, I have to try. Will you help me? Adana studied his face for a long moment. If she says no, if she wakes up and tells you to go to hell, you'll respect that? You won't pressure her? I promise. And if she says yes, if she agrees to this, you're not going to hurt her again? Because Jinwoo, I swear she can't survive another betrayal. Not from you. I know, Jinwoo's voice cracked. Adana, I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I destroyed everything, but I love her. I never stopped loving her, and I love our son. I'll spend the rest of my life making this right if she'll let me. Adana's eyes searched his face. Then slowly she nodded. Okay, but I'm staying with you every step of the way. And if you even think about backing out or changing your mind, I will end you. Clear? Clear. Jinwoo's phone rang again. His mother. He declined the call and immediately received a text. Your father and I are on our way to the hospital. We need to talk about this situation before you do something you'll regret. Jinwoo typed back quickly. Don't come. You're not welcome here. His mother's response was immediate. Don't be ridiculous. We're your family. No, Jinwoo typed. My family is in the NICU fighting for his life. My family is in surgery recovering from what your actions caused. You are not my family anymore. He blocked his mother's number, then his father's, then his brother's. Adana raised her eyebrows. That's going to cause problems. Good. Let it. Jinwoo looked toward the NICU window where his son lay fighting. They caused enough damage. I'm done letting them control my life. A nurse approached them, looking concerned. Mr. Park, there's a situation. Your son's oxygen levels are dropping. The doctors are with him now, but you should know that his condition is deteriorating faster than we expected. If we don't do this surgery very soon... She didn't finish. She didn't need to. Jinwoo felt his chest tighten. 24 hours had become a few hours. A few hours might become minutes. How long do we have? His voice was barely a whisper. I can't say for certain, but if I were you, I'd say goodbye now, just in case. The words hit like a physical blow. Say goodbye to his son, the son he'd only just learned existed, the son he'd never held, never spoken to, never had the chance to love. Can I go in? Jinwoo asked. Can I see him? Touch him? The nurse nodded. For a few minutes, follow me. She led him to a door beside the NICU window, made him scrub his hands, put on a gown and mask. Then she opened the door, and Jinwoo stepped into a room full of machines and monitors and three tiny babies fighting for life. His son was in the incubator closest to the window. So small, so impossibly, heartbreakingly small. You can touch him through the openings, the nurse said gently, pointing to circular ports in the side of the incubator. Just be very gentle. Jinwoo's hands shook as he slipped them through the openings. His son's skin was warm, incredibly soft. Jinwoo's large hand could have covered the baby's entire body. Hey, Jinwoo whispered, tears streaming down his face behind the mask. Hey, little one. I'm your appa. I'm sorry I wasn't here before. I'm so sorry. The baby's tiny chest rose and fell rapidly, too rapidly. The monitor above showed numbers Jinwoo didn't understand, but he could see them dropping. You need to fight, okay? You need to stay strong just a little longer. Your Oma is fighting too. She's so brave, your Oma. You got that from her. And I'm gonna fix this. I promise, I'm gonna fix everything. The baby's hand, smaller than Jinwoo's thumb, twitched slightly. Jinwoo held his breath. Then those tiny fingers wrapped around his pinky, gripping with surprising strength. Jinwoo broke down completely, sobbing over the incubator. Please, he whispered. Please don't leave. Don't leave me before I even get to know you. I'll be better. I'll be the father you deserve. Just please, please hold on. Behind him, an alarm started beeping. The nurse gently pulled him back. You need to leave now, Mr. Park. The doctors need to work. Jinwoo stumbled out of the NICU, his vision blurred with tears. Adana caught him as he nearly collapsed. He's so small. Jinwoo choked out. Adana, he's dying and there's nothing I can do. There's nothing. Mr. Park? They both turned. A young woman in scrubs was running toward them, waving a clipboard. Mr. Park, it's Miss Okafor. She's waking up early. The anesthesia is wearing off faster than expected. The doctors think it's because her body is fighting to stay awake. She keeps trying to talk, to ask about the baby. We can give you maybe 5 minutes with her. 5 minutes before we have to sedate her again. Jinwoo and Adana looked at each other. 5 minutes. 5 minutes to convince the woman he destroyed to marry him again. 5 minutes to save their son's life. Take me to her, Jinwoo said. Right now. If this story has you hooked, pause for 1 second. Like, subscribe, and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Jinwoo's heart pounded as he followed the nurse down the corridor toward the intensive care unit. Each step felt like walking toward Judgment Day. What was he going to say to her? How could he possibly explain everything in 5 minutes? Adana gripped his arm. Let me go in first. Let me prepare her. If she sees you and goes into shock. No time, the nurse said, pushing through the ICU doors. She's already extremely agitated. We need to calm her down or we'll have to sedate her immediately. They reached Ifeoma's room and Jinwoo's breath caught. She looked so fragile against the white hospital sheets, her beautiful dark skin ashen, her natural hair pulled back in a messy bun. Tubes ran from her arms and monitors beeped steadily beside her bed. But her eyes, those eyes he'd fallen in love with 3 years ago, were open and full of panic. My baby, she was saying weakly in English, trying to sit up despite the doctor holding her shoulders. Please, where is my baby? Is he alive? Someone tell me if he's alive. Ms. Okafor, you need to stay calm, the doctor said firmly. Your baby is Ifeoma. Jinwoo's voice cut through the chaos. She froze. Her head turned slowly toward the door, and when her eyes met his, every emotion Jinwoo had been holding back crashed over him like a wave. Love, guilt, regret, hope, terror. Jinwoo? Her voice was barely a whisper. You're real? I'm not dreaming? He moved to her bedside, his legs shaking. I'm real. I'm here. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Our baby, Jinwoo. Our baby, He's alive, Jinwoo said quickly. He's in the NICU. He's fighting. Ifeoma closed her eyes, more tears flowing. Thank God. Thank God. I was so scared. I felt something was wrong, but I didn't have money for proper care, and I thought. Her voice broke into sobs. Miss Okafor, you need to stay calm, the doctor warned. Your blood pressure is rising dangerously. Ifeoma, listen to me. Jinwoo took her hand gently, carefully avoiding the IV. I need to tell you something about our son. He has a heart condition. He needs surgery immediately. Her eyes went wide with fear. Surgery? But he's so small. How can they? They can do it. They have the best doctors, but there's a problem. Jinwoo's voice shook. There's a legal problem with consent. I'm not on any documents as his father, and you're too weak to sign the necessary papers. The doctors say you need at least 12 more hours of rest before you can safely. No, Ifeoma tried to sit up again, grimacing in pain. No, if my baby needs surgery now, I'll sign whatever they need. I'll do whatever. Ifeoma, you could die if you don't rest, Adana said from the doorway, her voice thick with emotion. Your body can't handle any more stress right now. I don't care. Ifeoma's voice rose, setting off alarms on her monitors. My son needs me. I have to. There's another way, Jinwoo said quickly. There's one other way I can get the legal standing to consent to the surgery. Ifeoma looked at him, confused and frightened. What way? Jinwoo took a deep breath. This was it. 5 minutes to convince her. 5 minutes to save their son. If we were still married, I would automatically have parental rights. Even without being on the birth certificate. As your husband, I could legally consent to the surgery. The room went silent except for the beeping of machines. Ifeoma stared at him. But we're divorced. I know, but we could get married again. Right now. There's a way to do it quickly, at the Nigerian embassy. It would be legal, and it would give me the authority to save our son. Ifeoma's face went through a dozen emotions: shock, disbelief, pain, anger. You want to marry me again? Now? After everything? I know I have no right to ask this, Jinwoo said, his voice breaking. I know what I did to you. I know I destroyed everything. But Ifeoma, our son is dying. Every hour we wait, his chances get worse. If this is the only way to save him. Mr. Park, Miss Okafor's blood pressure is getting dangerously high, the doctor interrupted. We need to end this conversation now. No. Ifeoma grabbed Jinwoo's hand with surprising strength. Wait, just wait. She looked at Jinwoo, tears streaming down her face. You left me. You threw me away like I was nothing. You blocked my calls when I tried to tell you about your son. You let your family destroy me, and now you want me to marry you again? Each word was a knife, but Jinwoo didn't look away. Yes, I know I don't deserve it. I know I don't deserve you or another chance or anything. But our son deserves to live. He deserves parents who will do anything to save him, even if it means you have to marry the man who broke your heart. Miss Okafor, your blood pressure. How do I know you won't leave again? Ifeoma's voice was desperate. How do I know this isn't just about guilt? That you won't walk away the moment our son is safe? Jinwoo fell to his knees beside her bed, still holding her hand. I can't promise I'll be perfect. I can't erase what I did. But I can promise that I will spend every single day for the rest of my life trying to make this right. I love you, Ifeoma. I never stopped loving you. I was just too proud and too stupid to see what my family was doing. I let them poison my mind against you because I was weak. But I'm not weak anymore. I kicked them all out. I blocked their numbers. I told them they're not welcome in my life until they apologized to you. You did what? I chose you. I chose our son, and if you let me, I will keep choosing you every single day for the rest of my life. The monitor alarms were getting louder. The doctor was preparing a sedative. Ifeoma, please, Jinwoo begged. I know it's crazy. I know it's fast, but our son doesn't have time. Just say yes. Marry me again. Let me save our baby. And then if you never want to see me again after that, I'll accept it. I'll give you anything you want. Money, property, full custody. But please, please let me save him. Ifeoma looked at Adana, who stood by the door with tears streaming down her face. It's your choice, Adana said quietly. I'll support whatever you decide. But that baby in the NICU, he needs one of you to be strong enough to make this decision. And right now, you're the only one who can. Ifeoma closed her eyes. More tears fell. Jinwoo watched her face, saw the battle happening behind her closed eyelids. She was weighing his betrayal against their son's life, his abandonment against a chance at survival. The doctor moved forward with the sedative. I'm sorry, but I have to. Yes. Everyone froze. Ifeoma opened her eyes and looked directly at Jinwoo. Yes, I'll marry you again. For our son. Only for our son. Relief flooded through Jinwoo so powerfully he almost collapsed. Thank you, Ifeoma. I promise I'll... But I have conditions, she said, her voice stronger now despite her weakness. After the surgery, we figure out custody. We figure out what this means. And if I decide I can't trust you again, if I decide this marriage is just on paper, you accept that. You don't fight me. You don't let your family hurt me again. Anything. I agree to anything. And you never ever block my calls again. You never shut me out. You never make me feel invisible again. Because Jinwoo, that almost killed me. Do you understand? Being invisible to you almost killed me. Jinwoo's heart shattered. I understand. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Miss Okafor, I really need to sedate you now. The doctor said urgently, your body can't handle much more. How long do we have to do this? Ifeoma asked. The marriage? How fast can it happen? Jinwoo pulled out his phone, hands shaking as he checked his messages. My lawyer says the Nigerian embassy can do it, but you'd need to be there, in person. They won't perform the ceremony without the bride present. Then take me there. Absolutely not, the doctor said firmly. Miss Okafor, you just had major surgery. You've lost a dangerous amount of blood. Moving you right now could cause internal bleeding, infection, or worse. I cannot allow it. It's not your choice, Ifeoma said, trying to sit up again. It's mine. My son needs this, so I'm going. Ifeoma, please. Adana moved to her bedside. Listen to the doctor. Your body needs rest. If something happens to you, that baby loses his mother. Is that what you want? What I want is for my son to live, Ifeoma's voice rose. What I want is for him to have the surgery he needs. If I have to risk my life to make that happen, then that's what I'll do. I'm his mother. That's what mothers do. The doctor and Adana exchanged worried looks. Jinwoo felt torn between hope and terror. If they did this, if they moved Ifeoma and something went wrong, there has to be another way, Jinwoo said. Maybe if we can get the embassy to come here, or do it over video call. Embassy marriages require physical presence, the lawyer's text came through. Both parties, witnesses, and an official. No exceptions. How far is the embassy? Ifeoma asked. About 30 minutes in normal traffic, Adana said. Maybe 20 if we use an ambulance. Then we use an ambulance. Ifeoma looked at the doctor. You said I need rest. I'll rest in the ambulance. You can monitor me the whole way. We do the ceremony, we come straight back, and you knock me out for as long as I need. But we do this now, before our son runs out of time. This is medically inadvisable in the extreme, the doctor said. I'm going on record saying this is dangerous and could result in serious complications or death. Noted, Ifeoma said. Now, help me get ready to move. The next 20 minutes were controlled chaos. The doctor insisted on bringing full medical equipment in the ambulance, portable monitors, emergency medications, backup blood supplies. Nurses carefully disconnected Ifeoma from the room's machines and reconnected her to portable ones. Jinwoo called the Nigerian embassy, pulling every string he had to get them to agree to an emergency ceremony. Adana made calls to arrange witnesses. Jinwoo's lawyer rushed over with all necessary documents. And through it all, Ifeoma lay on the gurney, pale and exhausted but determined. Her vitals are stable for now, the doctor told Jinwoo as they prepared to move her. But the moment they start dropping, we're turning around. No ceremony is worth her life. Agreed, Jinwoo said, though his stomach churned with anxiety. What if they had to turn around? What if this didn't work? They wheeled Ifeoma out to the waiting ambulance. Jinwoo climbed in beside her, along with Adana and the doctor. The lawyer would meet them at the embassy with the papers. As the ambulance pulled away from the hospital, sirens blaring, Ifeoma turned her head to look at Jinwoo. If I die doing this, she said quietly, you make sure our son knows I loved him. You tell him every single day. You tell him his mother loved him more than her own life. You're not going to die, Jinwoo said fiercely, taking her hand. You're going to live, and you're going to raise our son and watch him grow up and... Promise me, Jinwoo. Her grip tightened. Promise me if something happens, you'll love him enough for both of us. You'll never let him feel invisible like you made me feel. Promise me. Jinwoo's vision blurred with tears. I promise. But you're going to be fine. We're both going to be fine. Our son is going to be fine. This is going to work. Ifeoma closed her eyes, tears sliding down her temples. I hope you're right. The ambulance raced through Seoul's evening traffic. Inside, monitors beeped steadily, tracking Ifeoma's heartbeat, her blood pressure, her oxygen levels. The doctor watched the screens with hawk-like intensity, ready to intervene at the first sign of trouble. Jinwoo held Ifeoma's hand and prayed. He wasn't a particularly religious man. His family had been more focused on business than faith. But right now he prayed to every god he'd ever heard of. Korean gods, Christian god, Nigerian gods, Ifeoma had mentioned. Anyone who might be listening. Please let this work. Please don't take her from me again. Please save our son. His phone buzzed. A text from the hospital. Baby's oxygen levels critical. Surgery cannot wait past midnight. It's 8:47 p.m. now. 3 hours and 13 minutes. That's all they had. We're 10 minutes out, the ambulance driver called back. How are her vitals? Jinwoo asked the doctor. holding steady, for now. But Mr. Park, you should know, even if this ceremony goes perfectly, even if we get back to the hospital without complications, there's no guarantee your son will survive the surgery. His condition is extremely serious. The odds. I don't want to hear about odds, Jinwoo said. I just want to hear that you'll do everything possible. We will, but you need to be prepared for. Ifeoma's monitor started beeping rapidly. The doctor's attention snapped to the screen. What's happening? Adana asked, fear in her voice. Her blood pressure is dropping. Not dangerously yet, but the doctor prepared an injection. Miss Okafor, I'm giving you something to stabilize your BP. You might feel lightheaded. I already feel lightheaded, Ifeoma murmured. Everything feels far away. Stay with us, Jinwoo said urgently, squeezing her hand. Ifeoma, stay awake. Talk to me. Tell me about the pregnancy. Tell me about our son. Her eyes opened slightly. He kicks like a soccer player. Kept me up most nights. I'd put my hand on my belly and talk to him. Tell him about his appa. About how smart you are. How you built buildings that touch the sky. About how you were just confused right now, but you'd figure it out eventually. Jinwoo's throat tightened. You told him about me? Even after everything? He deserved to know his father, even if his father didn't know about him. Ifeoma's words were starting to slur slightly. I bought him a little stuffed animal, a tiger, Korean national animal. Wanted him to know both sides of his heritage. It's in my apartment. In the nursery, I set up in the corner of my bedroom. Everything's secondhand, but I cleaned it all, made it perfect for him. You set up a nursery, Jinwoo whispered. Of course I did. He's my son. I wanted him to have everything. Even if I couldn't afford much, even if I had to work until I collapsed. Her eyes closed again. He was worth it. Every hard day, every moment I couldn't breathe from exhaustion, he was worth all of it. Blood pressure still dropping, the doctor said with concern. We need to get to that embassy now. 2 minutes, the driver called back. Ifeoma, stay awake, Adana said, leaning forward. Come on, girl. You've been through worse than this. Remember when you first moved to Korea and ate that super spicy ramyeon? You literally cried for an hour, but you finished the whole bowl because you're too stubborn to quit. A tiny smile flickered across Ifeoma's lips. That was so spicy. I couldn't taste anything for 3 days. And you still ordered it again the next week, Adana said, laughing through her tears. That's who you are, Ifeoma. You don't quit, so don't you dare quit now. The ambulance pulled up to the Nigerian embassy, a modest building with the green-white-green flag flying out front. Jinwoo could see people waiting at the entrance, his lawyer, embassy staff, witnesses. We're here, Jinwoo said. Ifeoma, we made it. Just stay strong a little longer. They carefully wheeled her gurney out of the ambulance. The embassy's cultural attaché, a middle-aged Nigerian woman named Mrs. Adeyemi, met them at the door, her face full of concern. This is highly irregular, she said, looking at Ifeoma hooked up to all the medical equipment. I agreed to this because Mr. Park explained the situation. But are you certain you want to do this, Ms. Okafor? You look like you should be in a hospital, not at a wedding. My son needs me to do this, Ifeoma said, her voice weak but determined. So let's do it. Quickly, please. They wheeled her into a small ceremonial room. Jinwoo's lawyer had already arranged everything. The marriage license, the witnesses, all the necessary paperwork. Mrs. Adeyemi took her position at the front of the room, holding a Nigerian marriage manual. This will be brief, she said. Given the circumstances, I'll skip the usual ceremony elements and go straight to the legal requirements. Mr. Park, Miss Okafor, are you both here of your own free will? Yes, they said together. Do you both understand that this marriage, once completed, will be legally binding in both Nigeria and Korea? Do you, Jinwoo Park, take Ifeoma Okafor to be your lawfully wedded wife? Jinwoo looked at Ifeoma, this brave, incredible woman he'd hurt so badly, who was risking her life for their son. I do. With everything I am, I do. Do you, Ifeoma Okafor, take Jinwoo Park to be your lawfully wedded husband? Ifeoma's eyes met his. For a moment, Jinwoo saw all the pain he'd caused her, all the betrayal and loneliness and suffering, but he also saw determination and love. Love for their son. I do. Then by the power vested in me by the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I pronounce you husband and wife. Please sign here. Jinwoo signed quickly, his hand steady despite his racing heart. Then they brought the documents to Ifeoma. She lifted her hand, which shook violently, and tried to sign. The pen fell from her fingers. I can't, she whispered. My hand won't work. Everything's going numb. Miss Okafor, we need to get you back to the hospital immediately. Miss Okafor, we need to get you back to the hospital immediately, the doctor said urgently, checking her monitors. Your blood pressure is dropping dangerously low. No, Ifeoma's voice was barely a whisper but fierce. Not until I sign. Help me. Someone help me sign. Mrs. Adeyemi looked at the doctor. Is there any way? Hold her hand, Adana said suddenly. Jinwoo, hold her hand and help guide it. That should be legally acceptable, right? Mrs. Adeyemi nodded quickly. Yes, as long as she's making the motion herself, assistance is permitted. Jinwoo gently took Ifeoma's hand, wrapping his fingers around hers along with the pen. Together, shakily, they signed her name on the marriage certificate. The moment the final letter was complete, Ifeoma's hand went limp. She's losing consciousness, the doctor said, already moving. We need to go now. Is the marriage legal? Jinwoo asked desperately as they rushed Ifeoma's gurney back toward the ambulance. Yes, Mrs. Adeyemi called after them, waving the signed documents. It's official. You're married. They loaded Ifeoma back into the ambulance, the doctor working frantically to stabilize her. She's going into shock. I need to intubate. Mr. Park, you need to move back. Jinwoo pressed himself against the ambulance wall, watching helplessly as the doctor and nurses worked on Ifeoma. Her face was gray now, her lips pale. The monitors screamed with alarms. Don't you dare leave me, Jinwoo said, his voice breaking. Ifeoma, don't you dare. Our son needs you. I need you, please. Adana grabbed his hand, squeezing hard. She's a fighter. She'll make it. She has to. The ambulance raced back through Seoul, sirens wailing. Jinwoo watched the doctor perform CPR, watched them inject medication after medication. Every second felt like an eternity. His phone buzzed. The hospital. Jinwoo answered with shaking hands. Mr. Park, this is Dr. Kim from the NICU. Your son's condition has deteriorated significantly. We have the marriage certificate from the embassy. They faxed it over. We have your consent now, but we need to start the surgery immediately. We can't wait for you to get back. Jinwoo looked at Ifeoma, unconscious and fighting for her life. Then he thought of his son, equally fragile, equally desperate. Do it, Jinwoo said. Start the surgery. Save our son. We'll do everything we can. But Mr. Park, you should know, the next few hours will determine everything, for both of them. The call ended. Jinwoo slumped against the ambulance wall, feeling like his entire world was balanced on a knife's edge, his wife and his son both dying, both beyond his ability to save. We're almost there, the driver called back. 3 minutes. Her vitals are stabilizing, the doctor said, though his voice was tense, but barely. She needs blood transfusions immediately, multiple units, and she'll need to stay sedated for at least 48 hours. Her body has been through too much. The ambulance pulled into the hospital's emergency bay. Medical staff were already waiting, having been alerted to their arrival. They rushed Ifeoma inside, Jinwoo and Adana running alongside the gurney. Straight to ICU, the doctor ordered. Type and cross-match for 6 units. Get me a full panel. And someone page cardiology. I want her heart monitored continuously. They disappeared through a set of double doors, leaving Jinwoo and Adana standing alone in the corridor once again. Jinwoo's legs gave out. He collapsed onto a nearby chair, his head in his hands. This is all my fault. All of it. Adana sat beside him, equally exhausted. The surgery should be starting now, for the baby. Chukwemeka, Jinwoo said. His name is Chukwemeka. You remembered. Of course I remembered. Ifeoma told me in the ambulance. God has done great things. Jinwoo's voice cracked. I just hope God isn't done yet. They sat in silence for several minutes. Around them, the hospital continued its endless rhythm, nurses passing by, machines beeping, pages over the intercom. But Jinwoo heard none of it. His entire focus was on 2 operating rooms somewhere in this building, where his wife and son fought for their lives. A nurse approached them. Mr. Park, your family is here. They're demanding to see you. Jinwoo's jaw tightened. I told them not to come. They're quite insistent. Your mother is threatening to call the hospital board. She says she knows the director. Of course she does, Jinwoo thought bitterly. His mother knew everyone. That was how she'd been able to sabotage Ifeoma so thoroughly. Connections, money, and a complete lack of moral boundaries. Tell them to leave, Jinwoo said firmly. Tell them I don't want to see them. Sir, they're already in the waiting room. And they've brought... The nurse hesitated. They've brought lawyers. Jinwoo stood up abruptly. Lawyers? What for? I don't know, sir, but your mother said something about contesting the marriage and custody rights. White-hot rage flooded through Jinwoo. Even now, even with his son in surgery and his wife barely alive, His mother was trying to control everything, trying to destroy what little chance he had at making this right. Stay with Ifeoma, he told Adana. If anything changes, call me immediately. Jinwoo, don't do anything. I'm done being controlled by them, Jinwoo said, his voice like ice. They've done enough damage. It ends tonight. He stalked toward the waiting room, his exhaustion replaced by pure fury. When he pushed through the doors, he found his entire family there. His mother in her expensive hanbok, his father in his business suit, his brother looking uncomfortable, and 3 lawyers in matching navy suits. Jinwoo! His mother stood immediately, speaking in rapid Korean. Finally, we need to talk about this situation. These lawyers have been reviewing the marriage certificate from the embassy, and there are grounds to contest it. The woman was clearly under duress, medically compromised, possibly coerced. Get out! Jinwoo's voice was quiet but deadly. His mother blinked. What? I said, get out. All of you. Leave this hospital right now. Don't be ridiculous, his father said, also in Korean. We're your family. We're here to help you fix this mess. You are the mess. Jinwoo's voice rose. You're the reason Ifeoma suffered for 9 months. You're the reason she almost died today. You're the reason my son is in surgery right now fighting for his life. That child is not your responsibility, his mother said coldly. How do you even know it's yours? This woman, she could have. Jinwoo moved so fast his mother actually stepped back. Do not finish that sentence. Do not speak about my wife that way. Do not speak about my son that way. Your wife? His brother laughed incredulously. Jinwoo, you divorced her. Whatever you did tonight under pressure doesn't count. These lawyers can... I don't care what these lawyers can do. Jinwoo looked at each of them in turn. I married Ifeoma because I love her, because she is the bravest, strongest person I've ever known, because she spent 9 months suffering alone while carrying my child, and she never once complained. She never once asked for my help, even though she was dying inside. Do you know why? Silence. Because you, Jinwoo pointed at his mother, threatened her. You sent lawyers to intimidate her. You blocked every payment I tried to send. You made her believe that if she came near me, you'd destroy her completely. And she believed you because you'd already proven you could do it. His mother's face paled slightly. I was protecting the family business. Protecting you from what? From love? From happiness? From the one person who actually cared about me and not just the Park family name? Jinwoo's voice broke. You destroyed the best thing in my life because she wasn't Korean enough for you, because she challenged me instead of just obeying, because she was real and honest and everything you're not. Jinwoo, you're being emotional, his father said. When you calm down. I am calm. For the first time in my life, I'm seeing clearly. And what I see is that you people aren't my family. Family doesn't destroy each other. Family doesn't lie and manipulate and sabotage. Family doesn't leave a pregnant woman to work herself to death on construction sites. She worked construction? His brother looked genuinely shocked. But she's an architect. She has degrees from... No one would hire her, Jinwoo said flatly. Not after Mother spread rumors about her stealing company secrets. Not after she was blacklisted from every reputable firm in Seoul. So yes, she worked construction. She hauled materials. She worked night shifts at convenience stores. She did whatever she had to do to survive, to take care of our child, while I sat in my luxury penthouse believing the lies you fed me. His mother's lawyer stepped forward. Mr. Park, perhaps we should discuss this privately. Your family has legitimate concerns about... My family has no concerns, because they are no longer my family. Jinwoo pulled out his phone. I'm calling security. You have 2 minutes to leave this hospital before I have you forcibly removed. You can't be serious, his mother said, her voice rising. Jinwoo, we raised you. We gave you everything. The business, the education, You gave me nothing but expectations and control. Jinwoo shouted. You never asked what I wanted. You never cared about my happiness. Everything was about the family image, the family business, the family name. Well, I'm done. I quit. You quit? His father's voice was dangerous. What does that mean? It means I'm done with Park Construction. I'm done with the family business. I'm done with all of it. Consider this my resignation, effective immediately. His mother actually gasped. You can't resign. You're the heir. Give it to my brother. He's always wanted it anyway. Jinwoo looked at his brother. Congratulations. It's all yours. The company, the pressure, the constant demands. Enjoy it. His brother's face went through several emotions. Shock, excitement, then something that might have been pity. Jinwoo, you don't have to do this. We can work something out. There's nothing to work out. I choose my wife, I choose my son, and I choose a life that doesn't involve any of you. If you walk away from this family, you walk away from everything, his father said coldly. The money, the properties, the business connections, everything. Good. I don't want any of it. Afeoma built a life from nothing. She survived 9 months with nothing. If she can do that, I can too. His mother's face had gone from pale to red. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. No, Jinwoo said quietly. The biggest mistake of my life was listening to you, was believing you when you said Ifeoma betrayed me, was letting you destroy the one real thing I ever had. But I'm not making that mistake again. He turned toward the door, then paused. By the way, Mother, I know you fabricated those photos of Ifeoma with Director Choi. I know you paid him to have dinner with her and then had someone follow them to take pictures. I found the bank transfers. I found the emails. His mother's face went white. So if you even think about contesting my marriage or trying to take custody of my son, I will release all of that evidence publicly. I will show everyone exactly what kind of person you are. Your reputation, your social standing, all of it will be gone. Do you understand me? His mother opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time in Jinwoo's life, she had nothing to say. Now get out of this hospital, and don't come back unless you're ready to apologize to Ifeoma. A real apology, on your knees if necessary. The lawyers looked at each other uncomfortably. Jinwoo's father took his mother's arm. Let's go. We can discuss this when everyone has calmed down. There's nothing to discuss, Jinwoo said. This is my life now, my choice, my family, and you're not part of it anymore. He watched them leave, his mother walking stiffly, his father's face like stone, his brother glancing back once with an expression Jinwoo couldn't read. The lawyers followed, their expensive briefcases suddenly useless. When the waiting room doors closed behind them, Jinwoo's legs nearly gave out again. The adrenaline that had kept him going drained away, leaving him hollow and shaking. He'd just given up everything. The company he'd trained his whole life to run. The wealth he'd grown up with, his entire family. And he didn't regret it for a second. Jinwoo returned to the ICU corridor where Adana was waiting, pacing anxiously. How is she? He asked. Still in surgery. They're giving her blood transfusions. The doctor said it'll be at least another hour before she's stable enough to move to recovery. Adana looked at him closely. What happened with your family? I quit. All of it. The business, the family, everything. Adana's eyes widened. Jinwoo, are you? I'm sure, more sure than I've been about anything in my life. Before Adana could respond, a nurse came running down the corridor, her face urgent. Mr. Park, it's your son. There's been a complication during surgery. Dr. Kim needs to speak with you immediately. Jinwoo's heart stopped. What kind of complication? The baby's heart, it's not responding the way they expected. Dr. Kim needs family medical history right now. He says it could be genetic. Is there any history of heart defects in your family? Jinwoo's mind raced. Heart defects? In his family? He'd never heard of anything like that. His parents were healthy, his brother was healthy, his grandparents had all lived long lives. Then a memory surfaced. A conversation he'd overheard years ago between his father and grandfather. Something about his father being sick as a baby. Something about surgery. My father, Jinwoo said urgently. My father had surgery as a baby. I don't know the details. My family never talked about it, but I remember my grandfather mentioning it once. Something about his heart. The nurse's eyes lit up. Do you know what hospital? What kind of surgery? No, wait. Jinwoo pulled out his phone. His hands shook as he scrolled through his contacts. He'd just kicked his family out, told them never to come back, but his son's life was at stake. He called his father's number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Jinwoo, his father's voice was cold. If you're calling to apologize, I need to know about your heart surgery. When you were a baby. What hospital? What was the condition? Silence. Father, please. Chukwemeka is in surgery right now and there's a complication. The doctors think it might be genetic. I need to know everything about your condition. More silence. Then, Severance Hospital, 1962. I had a ventricular septal defect, a hole in the heart. It required open heart surgery when I was 3 days old. The surgeon's name was Dr. Park Soon-ho. No relation. Jinwoo's pen flew across a piece of paper the nurse had given him. Anything else? Any complications? Any specific techniques they used? The surgery was experimental at the time. They used a new grafting technique from America. There were complications. I stopped breathing twice during the procedure, but obviously I survived. His father's voice softened slightly. Is my grandson going to be okay? The question caught Jinwoo off guard. My grandson. His father had never acknowledged the baby before. I don't know, Jinwoo said honestly, but thank you. This might save his life. He hung up and handed the paper to the nurse, who ran back toward the operating room. Adana had been listening. Your father called him his grandson. I know. Maybe. Don't, Jinwoo said quietly. Don't tell me they might change. Don't give me hope that they'll accept Ifeoma and Chukwuemeka. They had 9 months to do the right thing. They chose not to. Whatever happens now, I can't trust them. Not with my family. 20 agonizing minutes passed. Jinwoo paced the corridor, unable to sit still. Adana checked her phone repeatedly, as if news might magically appear on the screen. Finally, Dr. Kim emerged from the operating room, pulling off his surgical cap. His face was unreadable. Jinwoo rushed to him. My son, is he? The information you provided was crucial, Dr. Kim said. Your father's surgical records from 1962, we were able to access them and found detailed notes on the grafting technique used. It turns out your son has an almost identical defect. We modified our surgical approach based on those records. And? Jinwoo could barely breathe. Dr. Kim's serious expression broke into a small smile. The surgery was successful. Your son is stable. He's not out of danger yet. The next 24 hours will be critical, but his heart is beating strong and steady. He's a fighter, Mr. Park. Adana caught him, and they clung to each other, both crying with relief. Can I see him? Jinwoo asked. Not yet. He's in post-op recovery, but soon. In a few hours, we'll move him back to the NICU and you can visit. Dr. Kim's expression turned serious again. I won't lie to you, Mr. Park. Your son has a long recovery ahead. He'll need to stay in the hospital for at least 6 weeks. There will be more surgeries as he grows, but he has a real chance now. A good chance. Thank you, Jinwoo managed to say. Thank you so much. Dr. Kim nodded and left. Jinwoo and Adana stood in the corridor, holding each other up, both exhausted beyond measure, but filled with fragile hope. One down, Adana whispered. Now we just need Ifeoma to pull through. As if in answer, a different doctor emerged from the ICU. Mr. Park, your wife is out of surgery. We've stabilized her condition. She's going to need significant recovery time, probably several weeks in the hospital, but she's going to survive. The relief was so intense, Jinwoo actually had to sit down. He put his head in his hands and finally let himself break down completely. Great, gasping sobs that he'd been holding in for hours, days, months. All the fear, all the guilt, all the pain came pouring out. Adana sat beside him, her hand on his shoulder, letting him cry. They're both going to be okay, she said softly. Jinwoo, they're both going to be okay. I don't deserve this, Jinwoo said through his tears. I don't deserve them. Probably not, Adana agreed bluntly. But you're getting a second chance anyway. Don't waste it. I won't. I swear, I won't. 3 hours later, Jinwoo was finally allowed to see Ifeoma. She was still unconscious, would be for at least another day, but she looked more peaceful now. The color was returning to her face. The monitors showed strong, steady heartbeats. Jinwoo pulled a chair up beside her bed and took her hand carefully, mindful of all the IVs. We did it, he whispered. Ifeoma, we did it. Our son, Chukwuemeka, he made it through surgery. He's going to be okay. And so are you. You're both going to be okay. He pressed his forehead against their joined hands. I know you can't hear me, but I need to say this anyway. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. For not believing you, for abandoning you, for letting my family destroy what we had. I'm sorry for the 9 months you suffered alone. I'm sorry I wasn't there when you found out you were pregnant. I'm sorry for blocking your calls, for making you feel invisible. Tears dripped onto her hand. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. I don't know if we can fix what I broke. But I'm going to try. Every single day for the rest of my life, I'm going to try. I'm going to be the husband you deserved from the beginning. I'm going to be the father our son needs. I'm going to prove to you that I've changed. He sat with her through the night, holding her hand, watching her breathe. Nurses came and went, checking her vitals, adjusting medications. Jinwoo didn't move except to occasionally stretch his legs. At dawn, Adana brought him coffee and a breakfast sandwich from the hospital cafeteria. You need to eat something, she said firmly. And sleep. You look terrible. I'm not leaving her. I'm not asking you to. But Jinwoo, you can't help her or the baby if you collapse. Eat. Rest. I'll sit with her. Reluctantly, Jinwoo ate the sandwich, though he could barely taste it. The coffee helped clear some of the fog from his brain. The baby, Chukwuemeka, they're moving him back to the NICU this morning, Adana said. You should go see him. Be there when they settle him in. Jinwoo looked at Ifeoma's peaceful face, torn between staying with her and going to their son. Go, Adana said, reading his mind. I'll call you immediately if anything changes with Ifeoma. Your son needs to see his father. Jinwoo squeezed Ifeoma's hand one more time, then headed to the NICU. Dr. Kim was waiting for him at the window. We're just bringing him in now, Dr. Kim said. I wanted to prepare you, Mr. Park. He's going to look fragile. He'll have bandages, tubes, wires, but don't let that scare you. He's strong. He proved that during surgery. The nurses wheeled in a specialized incubator. Inside, Jinwoo could see his son, his beautiful, tiny son, wrapped in soft blankets, his chest covered in surgical dressings. But even through all the medical equipment, Jinwoo could see it clearly now. Chukwuemeka had Ifeoma's perfect nose, her beautiful lips, and he had Jinwoo's eyebrows, his chin. He was perfect. Can I touch him? Jinwoo asked. Yes, through the access ports, but be very gentle and wash your hands thoroughly first. Jinwoo scrubbed his hands until they were almost raw, then carefully slipped them through the incubator's ports. His son's skin was impossibly soft, warm. Jinwoo gently touched his tiny hand, and Chukwuemeka's fingers wrapped around his thumb, gripping with surprising strength. Hey, little one, Jinwoo whispered. Hey, Chukwuemeka, I'm your appa. I'm here now, and I'm never leaving again. The baby's eyes opened slightly, unfocused but seeming to look in Jinwoo's direction. You're so strong, Jinwoo continued softly. You survived surgery that would terrify grown men. You got that strength from your Amma. She's the bravest person I know. She fought so hard to bring you into this world. And now we both have to fight to get better, okay? You and your Amma, you both need to get strong, because I have so many plans for us. He talked to his son for over an hour, telling him everything he wanted their future to hold, the places they'd go together, the things he'd teach him, how he'd grow up knowing both Korean and Nigerian culture, the best of both worlds. Your Amma picked the perfect name for you, Jinwoo said. Chukwuemeka. God has done great things. Because you're alive, against all odds, you're here. That's the greatest thing I can imagine. A soft voice behind him made Jinwoo turn around. Adana stood there, her phone in her hand, tears streaming down her face. She's awake, Adana said. Jinwoo, Ifeoma is awake, and she's asking for you. 3 months later, Jinwoo stood in the doorway of the nursery, watching Ifeoma rock Chukwuemeka gently. Their son was finally home after 10 weeks in the hospital, and he was thriving. His surgery scars were healing beautifully. His heart was growing stronger every day. The nursery was in Jinwoo's penthouse, though it looked nothing like it had 3 months ago. Gone were the cold, minimalist decorations. Now the space was warm and lived in, with Nigerian fabrics on the walls alongside Korean art. The nursery itself was a blend of both cultures, a traditional Korean Doljeongsang statue sharing space with Nigerian Akuaba dolls. Is he asleep? Jinwoo whispered. Ifeoma looked up and smiled, that beautiful smile Jinwoo had thought he'd never see again. Almost. He keeps fighting it. Stubborn like his father. Stubborn like his mother, Jinwoo corrected, moving into the room to stand beside them. He looked down at his son, so much bigger now than that terrifyingly small baby in the NICU. Chukwuemeka's eyes were open, fighting sleep, and when he saw Jinwoo, his face broke into a gummy smile. Jinwoo's heart melted, every single time. I still can't believe he's really here, Ifeoma said softly, that we're all here, together. The 3 months since that awful night had been a long journey. Ifeoma had spent 4 weeks recovering in the hospital. Jinwoo had been there every day, sometimes sleeping in the chair beside her bed, refusing to leave even when she insisted he should go home and rest. They'd talked, hours and hours of talking, about the betrayal, the lies, the 9 months of suffering, about his family and the damage they'd caused, about whether they could really make this marriage work after everything that had happened. It hadn't been easy. Ifeoma had every right to be angry, and she was. But slowly, painfully, they'd started to rebuild trust. Jinwoo had kept every promise. He'd never blocked her calls, never shut her out, never let a day pass without showing her she mattered. He'd also kept his promise about his family. He'd officially resigned from Park Construction, given up his inheritance, cut all financial ties with his parents. His father had shown up at the hospital once asking to see his grandson. Jinwoo had allowed it, but only with Ifeoma's permission and only with her present. His father had looked at Chukwuemeka for a long time, then said quietly in English, "He looks like I did at that age. Strong, a survivor." It wasn't an apology. Not yet, but it was something. His mother hadn't come at all. But 2 weeks ago, a package had arrived. Inside were traditional Korean baby clothes and a handwritten note. "For my grandson. When you're ready to talk, I'll be ready to listen." Jinwoo had shown it to Ifeoma. She'd read it and said simply, "Maybe someday, but not yet." He respected that. Whatever timeline she needed, he would wait. Ifeoma finally got Chukwuemeka to sleep and carefully placed him in his crib. They stood together, watching him breathe. A sight that never got old, never stopped being miraculous. "Thank you," Jinwoo whispered. "For what? For giving me a second chance. For letting me be part of this. For not giving up on me even when you should have." Ifeoma turned to look at him, her expression serious. "I didn't give you a second chance for you, Jinwoo. I gave it for him. Because every child deserves to have both parents if possible. Because I watched you fight for him that night, and I saw who you could be. And now," Jinwoo asked quietly, "now that we've had these 3 months, now that you've seen me every day, trying to be better, what do you think now?" Ifeoma was quiet for a long moment, watching their son sleep. "I think you're trying. I think you're changing." I think she paused, then looked at him. "I think I might be falling in love with you again. Slowly, carefully, but maybe, possibly, falling." Jinwoo's breath caught. "Really? Don't make me regret saying it," Ifeoma said, but she was smiling. "We still have a lot to work through, a lot to rebuild. But yes, I see glimpses of the man I married, the man I fell in love with before everything fell apart, and I want to believe that man is still in there." "He is," Jinwoo promised. "He's here, and he's never leaving again." They stood together in the soft glow of the nursery nightlight, watching their son, their miracle, sleep peacefully. Outside the nursery, Jinwoo's phone buzzed. A text from his real estate agent. "Found the perfect space for your new architecture firm, Korean-Nigerian Fusion Designs. When can you and Ifeoma come look?" Jinwoo smiled. After leaving his family's company, he'd started planning a new business. His own firm, co-owned with Ifeoma, focusing on designing buildings that blended different cultural influences. They'd already lined up 3 projects, 2 commercial buildings and a community center. It wouldn't be as big as park construction. They wouldn't be as wealthy, but it would be theirs, built on honesty and partnership and love. "What are you smiling about?" Ifeoma asked. "Just thinking about our future, about all the things we're going to build together." "That's assuming I can forgive you enough to actually be your business partner," Ifeoma teased. But her hand found his, their fingers intertwining. "One day at a time," Jinwoo said. "That's all I'm asking for. One day at a time to prove I'm worth your trust." "One day at a time," Ifeoma agreed. They left the nursery together, leaving the door slightly open so they could hear if Chukwuemeka woke. In the living room, Adana was waiting, having come over for dinner as she did most evenings now. "Is the little prince finally asleep?" Adana asked. "For now," Ifeoma laughed. "Give him an hour and he'll be up again." "That's my godson," Adana said proudly, never missing a party. They settled on the couch, Jinwoo and Ifeoma on one side, Adana on the other. It felt normal, comfortable, like family. Jinwoo's phone buzzed again. This time, a call from a number he didn't recognize. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. "Hello? Jinwoo?" His brother's voice. "Don't hang up, please. I'm not calling on behalf of mother and father. I'm calling for myself." Jinwoo stood and walked to the window, looking out over Seoul's glittering nightscape. "What do you want?" "I wanted to tell you that you were right, about everything. Mother's been difficult since you left. Father's thrown himself into work even more than usual, and I've been running park construction, and I'm realizing..." His brother's voice cracked slightly. "I'm realizing how miserable it makes me, how much pressure there is, how little joy there is in any of it." Jinwoo was silent, not sure what to say. "I'm proud of you," his brother continued, "for walking away, for choosing your own path, for choosing love over money. I don't think I'm brave enough to do the same, but I wanted you to know that I see you. I see what you did, and it was the right choice." "Thank you," Jinwoo said quietly. "That means more than you know. And Jinwoo, if you ever want to talk, if you ever want to let me meet my nephew, I'd like that. No pressure, no family drama, just brothers." like we used to be when we were kids. Jinwoo thought about it. I'll talk to Ifioma, see what she's comfortable with, but maybe, someday. That's all I can ask for. Take care of yourself, Jinwoo, and your family. The call ended. Jinwoo returned to the couch to Ifioma's questioning look. My brother, he explained, extending an olive branch, maybe. And, Ifioma asked, and I'm thinking about it, but it's not just my decision, it's ours. Ours, Ifioma repeated, a small smile playing at her lips. I like the sound of that. From the nursery came a soft cry. Chukwuemeka was awake. My turn, Jinwoo said, standing. You stay here, relax. He walked back to the nursery where his son was fussing softly. Jinwoo picked him up carefully. You've made it this far. Then you already know this story isn't over. This is just the beginning. To be continued part 2. If this story touched something in you, don't let it end here. Comment part 2 below if you want the next chapter. Tell me what you felt. Tell me which moment stayed with you.